Not easy to plan for a disaster. That's why a conference for Midwest first responders helps them strategize for these situations.
23 News reporter Anthony Ferretti talks to Belvedere Police Chief Sean Shattle about how they dealt with the Apollo Theater roof collapse.
5 local first responders share with others what went into their emergency plan for the events that unfolded on March 31st from a tornado that hit Belvedere.
It starts with notification, response, and planning.
As part of the only local emergency planning conference in the Midwest, Belvedere Fire Chief Sean Shattle and 4 others share what practices they implemented for a successful emergency response to the Apollo Theater roof collapse.
I think having the panel all the way from the EMA director to the hospital administration shows that it is a full circle and that there's many parts to it.
Shattle and the other panelists agree the most important part of the plan that got them through that night is the relationships they built with each other beforehand.
Major parts of that incident were operated or overseen by people in other departments, and if we didn't know their capabilities, didn't know them personally, we wouldn't have had the trust to do that.
Being able to form those relationships, being able to meet one-on-one, bounce things, off of each other. And I came away here with a lot of good ideas on how we can make a response better for the future.
One person who attended Thursday's conference is Colin Pradle from Aurora's Emergency Management Agency. He says one of the things he takes away from this conference is how to incorporate training into real-world situations.
It's very eye-opening just to kind of see what everyone else thinks, get to know each other from the different areas, because if bigger things happen, we're all going to be helping out each other.
A chief from the Loves Park Fire Department personally called Chief Shattle, and Shattle left his personal phone at home that night, but his wife picked up, and because of that, Loves Park sent some help Belvedere's way.
In preparation for the tornado, police, fire, and local hospitals from the Belvedere area participated in a drill that resembled a situation similar to what happened at the Apollo Theater.